So anyway, in case you're confused by me suddenly speaking English, I do have Super Grandmaster Peter Svidler on this Skype line who can hopefully join us and finally add some chess culture to this program. Welcome, Peter.
Yeah, way to set the bar very high. Yeah, and it's all my fault that the civilized German has been replaced by the heathen tongue. I don't speak German. I I blame myself squarely. Jan is not at fault at all.
I agree it is mainly your fault, but it is a sacrifice we're more than happy to make because we've been missing you. You advanced far too far in the World Cup. I was thinking, okay, let's see if he gets kicked out second round and we can get him to do some commentary. But you did well. Are you happy or are you sad you didn't go all the way?
Well, I'm not happy I didn't go all the way. I didn't really. I mean, it's very usual for me these days not to have a particularly, high expectations for a tournament I'm about to play in. So, looking at my bracket, I thought, already, round two is not going to be a walk in the park, and it wasn't. Round three, I expected to play Radek, so, a short match against Radek, no one in the world, I think, will take as an easy match. And then I was once again, I expected to play Magnus. So I thought, if I get to Magnus, I've done well, and if I somehow get through Magnus, it's obviously fantastic. And I didn't get to play Radek, and then I didn't get to play Magnus. So by that point, you start thinking, the bracket is magically improving through no effort of my own. It seems like World Cup is once again trying at least to treat me quite nicely, and at this point you start entertaining thoughts about going further. And the match against Boo went fine, but MVL is very, very good. I mean, my main takeaway from that match is that, not that I'm surprised by it, but MVL is exceptionally strong. I also have some regrets about that match, but mainly. Well played to him.
Right. So, during a tournament, how far are you prepared going into this? Do you prepare for the first round, for the first and second? Do you think third round I get Wojtaszek, fourth round Carlsen? Do you have a game plan, or how do you approach a World Cup?
Well, I knew the bracket, but in terms of actual preparation, people will once again probably suspect I'm lying, or embellishing my legend or something. But I honestly, I looked up the games of my first round opponent in Tbilisi. I was, August was kind of weird, and I asked around and I got some expert opinions on my first round opponent, and but actual games and openings and things of that nature, that actually happened in Tbilisi. That is not meant as any kind of a disrespect to my first round opponent. I just couldn't bring myself to start looking at concrete stuff until I finally got there. So no set game plan as far as gameplay goes, so to speak.
Were you familiar with Mr. Vachier-Lagrave before you faced
kind
him?
of a mental, planning to. What?
I'm sorry, you broke up for a second. I didn't hear the last part.
So what was the question?
I asked if you were familiar with Mr. Vachier-Lagrave before you faced him.
Not very much, no. But I've asked some colleagues, and I was told that, and that actually was very useful advice for me. I was told that I will probably, which is kind of unusual for me these days, I will probably have two very good positions out of the opening because he doesn't seem to be particularly booked up. But that I should expect a very sharp double-edged fight in both games, and that he will not be going for. He will not be trying to somehow scrape a 1-1 score and play rapid. He will be aggressive, and he generally just goes for it with either color. And that was very much borne out by how the match went. I mean, huge huge props for him. I mean, to him for approaching chess in that way, but it kind of made my life a lot easier because in the first game I offered him a draw because I thought there is a forced continuation on the board which leads to a completely equal endgame. And he just burned all his time and decided not to go for it because he felt it was boring and drawish.
Which position was
and
that?
when,
I have the game
in the first game.
Screen.
Yeah, in the game. I mean, after queen takes before b6, a sane person just takes on b6 with the queen. I win that pawn back, and we go home.
Okay.
And instead he went bishop f4. Not only isn't it's not a particularly good move, but he also left himself 5 minutes. And whilst this is extremely ambitious and to a degree we can't get to play, let's say, some of the senior statesmen, so to speak. It's a lot nicer to see them actually trying to achieve something as opposed to the very timid approach you sometimes get. But, from a practical standpoint, this is not how you should be doing stuff. In particular, in connection with the time management.
So then in round 2, Viktor Erdos, in my opinion, I'm not sure if overrated, but very solid player. So you already mentioned you knew it was going to be tough. Do you plan to win these matches in the classical, or do you think tiebreak is fine? What's the strategy for a situation?
No, I'm not worried about tiebreaks. I feel like I'm a solid enough rapid and blitz player not to really be worried about playing very many people in that format. But I was not going for a 1-1 score, and in game 1 I felt like I missed out on a very serious opportunity because neither of us really knew anything in a very, very sharp line of this, 3a6 queen's gambit, which people are playing these days. And I got what I thought was exactly the kind of a position I wanted to get, very sharp, very unclear, unbalanced, and in which I don't know less theory than he does because neither of us knew anything. And it was also objectively at least slightly better for me. And then I just went completely crazy for half a move and missed any chance of having any advantage and offered a draw. And the second game was a non-game because he played rook b1 against Grunfeld, and I thought, okay, I will now have to remember some long theory. I actually had to convince myself to go for the main line, and after queen a5 check, he played queen d2 and not bishop d2. So I thought, okay, this does seem like an indication that he doesn't mind tie breaks as well, so I offered a draw. I was also, it wasn't a large factor, but I also managed to kind of injure myself before the tournament started, so I really didn't mind.
Why do you keep getting injured? Every other tournament I hear you got injured again. How do you do that?
It requires skill and dedication to your craft. I think by this point there's no other way to describe it, because this time I managed to tear some ankle ligaments getting on a bus. And this, I think, really shows tremendous dedication to the idea of getting injured for no reason before important tournaments. Because this really should not be possible. I mean, I actually work out these days. I'm in possibly the best shape of my life currently, and getting on a bus should be within my capabilities. But no. But I mean, there you go. That's. Yeah, buses are tricky beasts, I know.
Before we get back to your World Cup, we should probably inform the viewers that the Aronian-Dingliren game ended peacefully.
Yeah, they found a repetition, which isn't even that illogical, to be honest, because I guess Lev was worried the g8 rook might go to a8 and a3, and by playing rook h6 he creates a threat of f5. And then bishop f8, rook goes back, and the bishop is in the way of the rook a8 plan, so the bishop goes back to e7. Yeah. The machine at some point suggested that Lev was outplaying Ding a little bit, and he had this tactical opportunity of playing f5 on move 29. I don't know if you looked at it, and if it was any good, but the machine was... Was it actually good?
I'm not sure.
It did look very...
We can put it on the board, so if you go f5, he had to take, knight takes, rook f7, knight takes d4. And my theory was that he was afraid of the position after knight e6, knight takes b5, and something, rook g4, rook f2, even though you're 2 pawns up with white, it looked like counterplay.
Yeah, the black pieces do get tremendous amount of activity there. That's true. That's for sure. I guess he just didn't want to allow any kind of serious counterplay.
Right.
And he thought maybe after king g2 he will get more opportunities like that later on in the game. But that's just not the case. And also, to be honest, I was very surprised that any of this was even allowed, because there was numerous points earlier in the game where black could have played a5 and then potentially even a4, and the white pawn would never have even reached the b4 square. So
that's what I was yelling about. Instead of rook a of 8 g5, play a5, a4, rook a6, or knight b4, knight
yeah,
d5.
I was very surprised. I was very surprised none of this happened, to be honest. It did seem extremely logical. You get the knight away from c6, you will be able to support the d4 pawn with c7, c5 at any point. You can also bring the a pawn up to a4 and completely secure the queen side, and then you choose. But yeah, he went for that play on the king side, which didn't seem obvious to me, but worked out in the end, I guess.
Yeah, so draw in the first game. You've been in this situation 2 years ago. How tired are the players at this stage? And how much do they care about playing their best chess, being qualified for the candidates already?
Well, I think, I wanted to say there's more at stake for Lev, but I'm not actually sure that's true, because it would be a huge big deal, obviously, for a Chinese player to win the World Cup. But for Lev, he is sort of even more in the same boat as I was in 2015, because if he were to win the thing, that would be his second World Cup.
After 2005, maybe? Or
I think it's
2005. Right?
Yeah. No, 4, 5, I think. 7 was won by Kamsky. Yeah, and that does actually sort of factor into your calculations a little bit. I know it was kind of driving me half crazy in 2015. Because of how unique that achievement is. This is not a tournament that is very easy to win even once, and win it twice really does make it very, very special. So I wanted to say that for Lev, even if you ask him, he probably will say nah, that's not what I'm thinking about at all. I suspect it is at the back of his mind that he is on the verge of, achieving something really, really special. But for Ding, that would be an absolute breakout performance, of course. And
has a Chinese player ever won any international individual event? Like, I'm sure a tournament, but something official, I'm not sure.
I'm not very good with these stats. I mean, they won a ton of team events, but I'm not sure any of the. Ding may have won some elite tournament at some point, but I'm not sure. And in particular, where the situation with the pride of the state, so to speak, being constantly at stake there. You suspect it might actually be a consideration of just how much of a deal it is in terms of him bringing glory to the People's Republic of China. I hope I named that correctly. So yeah. And as for tiredness, they were extremely tired before the semifinal, but I think a lot of it sort of falls off after the semifinal when you've achieved what is. Well, once again, they might say no, but I think for many people, it's the primary goal there. They qualified for the candidates, and now they play for some additional money, and obviously longer fail to qualify for the candidates. So I think it does make you gain some kind of second win.
Yeah, that's what I was arguing at first, that Levon looked almost refreshed, having made it out of that match against MVL. But I'm not sure. During the course of the game, he did look tired too. So it must be gruesome to be there for, I don't know how many days there are now, 19 days in a row playing chess every other day, right?
They're still obviously not going to be objectively fresh, but I think they're probably fresher now than they were 3 days ago.
Okay.
Because mentally, a very large part of the strain is removed once you win the semifinal.
Right. How do you feel about the format in general? You've mentioned MVL is very strong. I would also argue that all three of MVL's matches against Grishuk, against you, and then against Levon could have gone either way. So do you feel it's unfair in a way because there's so many deserving players? Or?
Yeah, and once again, this will sound probably slightly arrogant, but I do feel that not including the semifinals, but up to the semifinals, our side of the bracket was I don't want to say tougher because people were there deservedly on the right side of the bracket, but our side of the bracket featured, let's say, so many people's favorites and so many matches where you feel if this were a final, nobody would have blinked an eyelid. MVL's road to the semifinal was extremely tough, and I mean the match against Sasha was epic, and I kind of collapsed in the rapids, but still it wasn't an easy match for him, and we've all seen the semis. You kind of have to feel for MVL there because he went through all that only to fall at the very, very last hurdle.
So to sum up for people who might not know, on your side of the bracket it was Carlsen, Kramnik, Ivanchuk, Giri, Grishuk, Aronian, MVL, you. That's the field, right?
That's sort of the field, although not everybody on that list made it to the
obviously, but the highest rated players.
Yeah. No, but that's no. If you just read out the seeded players on the other side, it will look just as impressive. But
will it though?
More of them
There's like the number 1, 2, 3 in the world, and 4 are all on your side.
Well, yeah, but still, like quarters quarters on the other side would be like Vichy playing, and the Rapport Nair part is Caruana against somebody.
Wei maybe. Yeah.
Rapport beats Wei is a bit lower down. So yeah, but Wei was supposed to play somebody higher than him, I guess, in the last.
Well, there was Nepomniachtchi, Nakamura, Wei.
So that was. Yeah, I'm missing some players there, but I mean, more of the top seeds survived on our side, I feel. I mean, Vlad got knocked out, and obviously Magnus got knocked out, but it feels like more of the marquee names somehow survived until the quarters.
Right. So, what was my question? Do you feel it's unfair because there's so many strong players and it's a bit of a lottery, or it's the format and you do your best?
No. The word lottery I dislike very, very strongly because once again, I have complaints and MVL has complaints, and pretty much everybody who got knocked out will have a story to tell about how they, could have played better at some, crucial moment and would have qualified. But still, the semifinals this year were MVL versus Lev for an average rating of 2,800, and Wesley against Ding Liren, who are both absolute marquee names, and Ding Liren, much was made of him being the lowest rated of the four with 2771. But we all know that when he plays at his best, he is a tremendously strong player with some very, very good performances under his belt, and he is constantly improving, seemingly. So I don't think the lottery theory will find much support from people who've actually played in those events. No, don't really think it's a lottery at all. But only 2 players qualifying does feel, from the inside, a bit harsh at times. But then again, that's the system, and we know it going in. And I mean, the list of people qualifying for the candidates does seem somewhat sensible. It's like suddenly giving, I don't know, 4 places to the World Cup and taking them from where? Not giving any places by rating, or just completely eliminating the Grand Prix series. It's not clear what you can do about this.
No, I've said this earlier today that you can always nitpick this and that, but to my mind, the system makes sort of sense. Like, you get 2 from the World Cup, you get the loser of the last finals match, the 2 Grand Prix plus the 2 rating spots, and 1 wild card. It's logical to me.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe argue for making it a 10-man tournament, and then maybe you could more people from the World Cup, because I think and also I've had this conversation. I do. I've developed a decent amount of contacts in the non-chess world these days. Like my other interests, I've been taking them seriously enough to actually, like, my Skype list now not only features chess players, but there's also some esports people on there, and many of them are very interested amateur chess players. And for them, World Cup is by far the best and the most interesting tournament in the year, because, there is no, you understand what's going on instinctively. There is no boog at the end of it. There is no BS, frankly. It's a straight single elimination knockout. You understand the brackets. You understand what's at stake, and it provides constant drama. So for them, I've had this conversation with people. For them, this is by far the best chess event of the year. And, in terms of interest from non-professionals, I think in particular people on the outside wouldn't feel at all cheated if more people in the World Cup, because they do feel that this is the competition. And once again, if you compare us with these sports, there is a ton of in somewhat corresponding tournaments in esports, top 4 generally do qualify, not top 2.
Gotcha.
But there again, I mean, it's somewhat irrelevant. But I thought it was very interesting to hear for me, because for me, there's a ton of very interesting events I watch very, very closely during the year, but I am a professional. And to hear it stated so clearly that this is the one event that it's interesting to follow for those guys was a bit of a revelation.
So your Skype list, World Championship match, Carlsen, Aronian, whatever, they don't care at all?
No, I mean, apart from that, I mean, those are, but frankly, I think, in terms of, dynamism and constant source of excitement, World Cup probably provides more of that than the World Championship match.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was still arguing that in chess we need the World Championship matches to keep up the legacy, and also from public interest. Feels to me like the matches is still the biggest thing. Do you think Magnus, for example, still favors to use this as the World Championship mode, or maybe had a change of heart after round 3?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him, and I'm definitely not arguing for the abolition of the World Championship matches. I'm just saying that this gave me a bit of a perspective which I wouldn't otherwise have. I'm not saying this is like immediate cause for action or anything of the kind. It was just interesting to me to hear.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. I hadn't thought of that. What annoys me these days a little bit is that the finals feels anticlimactic a little bit. Like, we had these super exciting semifinals and the epic MVL live-on match. But now we have 4 classical games with not that much at stake. Even though you pointed out, of course, the title is very valuable to both live-on and Ding. It still feels strange, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. And it is a bit of a problem with the format for sure. But once again, not clear how to solve it because giving only one spot to people playing in the World Cup is unthinkable. I think that would be horrible. This tournament is way too difficult to only give one spot, to one candidate spot for players in it, and that really is the only way to solve the issue of the final arguably being slightly less tense than the semis.
Maybe just have the finals as a rapid match, or just play 2 games at least instead of 4.
Yeah, maybe you can
Stick to the
tinker. Maybe you can tinker with the format, but once again, I'm not sure how big of a problem it actually is. It is obviously an issue, but whether it's something that needs addressing in some drastic fashion, because like your suggestion of just having it as a rapid match would, you play this whole tournament as classic / rapid, and then suddenly change the format for the very final matches. Would raise other questions. Let's put it like this. It's not an obvious solution.
Okay, I'll take it back. Let's stick to the format: 2 classicals and then rapid match.
Yeah, that maybe is a decent idea, because also, the strain on the finalists is not to be underestimated. As someone who's been there, I can attest to that.
All right, having fixed all of chess problems, let's get back to your tournament. So you make it past Erdos in the tiebreak, then you face Onishuk instead of Radek. Do you feel this is great? Onishuk is an easier pairing, or what are your thoughts at that point? Microphone check 1 2.
I felt like, for me personally, it's probably an improvement, because I have a very decent.
I think you're breaking up.
It does exist, and people do remember, the bad scores they have against other players.
I'm sorry, I think the connection is broken. I can't hear anything anymore.
Yeah, I'm having issues here as well. Can I improve or not? Can you hear me?
Now it's better. But I didn't get the part before that.
So, yeah, seems like I played a very decent game, the second classical game. Alex congratulated me after the game, said that I played very well, and I wasn't that sure. I thought I kind of drifted and lost track a bit during the middle phase, but I looked at it a little bit afterwards, and it did seem like I played quite well, so I was very happy with it.
I enjoyed Queen E2, like laying that knight on B3.
Yeah, Queen E2 was a nice move to make on the board, that's for sure.
So you beat Onishuk in the classical, then you faced Bouchangi, who just eliminated Magnus, and you also know you have a good score against Bouchangi, right? So you're probably more comfortable with him, though.
He is, the one Chinese player I actually have a good score against, because my general score against Chinese players is not great, but against him, historically, I've done well. I really don't know why. But that's just how it is. And the first one was a problem, because I think he kind of outplayed me out of the opening, and we got this weird position with pieces on the board, and he turned it down very, very quickly and continued on, and was actually pressing at one point, but I managed to survive somehow.
Turning a little
And the
Darth
second
Vader-ish again.
one was a bit weird because he played this d-take c3 stuff against me again. The thing that everybody seems to be doing these days.
I'm sorry, we're breaking up. Oops. Let's bring this back. Try to get Peter back. We're having some issues with Wi-Fi and the usual, but oops. Hopefully we can get him back. He's switching computers. It's there for any minute. In other news, the first game of the World Cup finals has ended peacefully between Levan Aronian and a gentleman who goes by the name of Ding Liren, the Chinese #1. Therefore, there's 3 more games to play in the classical part of it. Should it be a tie, then we will get a rapid tiebreak. Today is also the first round of the chess.com Isle of Man tournament, where, as you do in the first round, you get a pairing between Fabiano Caruana and Vladimir Kramnik, because they don't have a fixed seating order, I would imagine. So let's see if we can get Peter back to explain us more.
Hey.
Hello again. We're back with
Yes.
Super Grandmaster Peter Svidler on a new computer. Let's see how this one works.
Yeah, sound might be a bit worse, but the connection might be stable. I really don't know why that would be. It's the same Wi-Fi.
I can hear you fine. So where were we? We were in the middle of your Bu Shangji match. The first game, you weren't happy.
Well, I thought I didn't equalize out of the opening, but then, the first move I made that he didn't expect prompted him to immediately exchange every single piece, which was a bit weird to me because, yeah, he probably missed that idea, but it wasn't a groundbreaking idea, and he was still safely stuffed somewhat better, I feel, if he just continued.
Which move
but
was
I wasn't. If you have it on the board, I played knight a5, which he probably didn't expect, with the idea if the bishop goes to d3, I play c4, bishop c2, e5. Kind of switching to some sort of Spanish-looking position.
Hang on, which game are we talking about?
Second classical.
Second classical. I'm sorry, I was on the first classical still.
No, first classical I didn't play particularly well, yeah. But second classical, I went knight a5, which I could see he didn't expect, because normally black plays something like b6, bishop b7, but I was worried about rook a1, e5, and getting mated. Yeah. So I went knight a5, and you just go bishop d3, c4, bishop c2, e5, I don't know, rook fg1, knight d2, knight f1, knight e3. Why wouldn't you play on? There's zero risk involved, seems to me.
Looks decent. Yeah.
Black is not doing horribly badly, but it's the second game. Just push for a bit. But I guess he felt rapid is fine. But so did I, frankly. I wasn't that full for it.
Then the first rapid game, I was doing commentary and I quickly switched. First I was like, stupid Peter doesn't know theory again, he's gonna be under pressure. And then some moves later you were already doing better. How did you feel over the board?
It's kind of interesting because that's a very normal assumption. I don't blame you for it. But what actually happened was I remember theory reasonably well, but I really, really didn't want to play it.
Okay.
Because you are kind of supposed to enter this endgame.
Right, bishop e2, dc4.
Yeah, you have to take on c4 and you have to play that endgame. And I've looked at that endgame from the white side quite seriously at one point in my life. And whilst I don't believe it gives white any advantage if black plays perfectly, white is definitely the side enjoying life slightly more, with zero risk. And obviously, despite him playing something similar in the classical, I still completely failed to repeat any of it. Right. And I thought, okay, yeah, d takes c4 is objectively by far the best move in the position, or it's supposed to be at least. But I really dislike the idea of making that move on the board. So what else can I play? And I settled on going for this kind of a bluffy line with bishop takes c3 and rook e8, which is not recommended. But it worked out fine eventually, but you really shouldn't.
Yeah, I was worried, but then the next time, I don't know, when the smoke cleared a bit after bishop f5, it looked like you were already decided with the easier play, right?
Sure, but the critical point and the point where he actually sank into very deep thought, and I'm sure he realized, this is objectively what he probably has to do, was after e5, he shouldn't take on c6, he should go c takes d5.
c5 for sure.
Yeah. And sort of regardless of how all the tactics are going to work out, you just feel it in your bones that this is the correct approach compared to knight c6, bc6, which it doesn't look like black is doing badly. You just look at the position and you think, yeah, the worst is over for black. White is still not worse by any stretch, but black should feel reasonably comfortable. I mean, once he took on c6, I thought, okay, I'm going to survive this opening. And that was after I decided not to enter the endgame. My life's ambition at that point was to get out of the opening with a position that is not lost. And once I saw him take on c6, I thought, okay, this gamble kind of paid off now.
And then a few moves later, all of a sudden you're better already, right? After queen c7, what is fighting for survival?
Yeah, he went for this whole forced line with rook takes d5, queen c7, queen c4. He spent some time on rook takes d5, and I guess he felt this endgame with extra exchange was fine. But he just lacks about a tempo somewhere to completely stabilize, which I figured out beforehand, and I was very happy when he went for it, because I think he more or less always has to give up on c3, otherwise both my rooks land on the second, and that generally is, bad/fatal for white in these types of positions. And so, my conversion wasn't the best, but it was sort of just about good enough.
Checkmated him.
Yeah, I did, but that was kind of a cheapo, which paid off.
He missed this rook a3 near the end, I guess.
Yeah, he missed rook a3, but also basically when he played, I went for this line with a4, bishop a4, and gf. I thought he has to take with the pawn, and he took with the king, and I suddenly realized that nothing picks up any material, which was very regrettable. And then I looked up and I saw that he actually has 15 seconds. And that kind of led me into thinking that it might be very beneficial for me to make a move in this position, which is not in his candidate list, right, so that he gets completely thrown by something that I play. But it's not very easy to make a move in this position, which A, makes sense, and B, is completely not in his candidate list. And I finally settled on this rook d3 move, because I create this threat of rook f1 check and rook takes e3. but I also make a move which you generally don't really consider. And if he goes rook e4 in reply, I'm not sure I win. I probably actually don't win if he goes rook e4 objectively, but he just panicked because he had so few seconds left, and rook a5, rook a3 is immediately moved.
Then in the next game, you were sort of winning after 8 moves, right? Or at least you
got
a nice position.
In particular, I mean, not that I expected it to happen, but it's kind of a pity that he didn't play knight g5, h6. Knight f7
Knight
would have been knight f7 would have been such a nice move to make on the board. But yeah, that's not very relevant. But I mean, as I said after the match, his main strength as a chess player is doing the basics extremely well. He's a very sound positional player. Yeah, he's a very sound positional player, very good technical player. All these things, which don't really help you very much when you have to play for a win with black. And he took a ton of risks in the first 5 moves by that point, like bishop e7.
e7 already shows he's not really sure what he's doing, right? Play c5 at least.
I think he was trying sort of correctly to stop me from, after knight f6, I was planning to take on f5, go d4, e4, knight h4, and then f3. That was actually my plan. And when I first saw bishop e7, I thought, clever. That actually stops what I'm trying to do. But then I realized it allows me to play d4 without taking on f5, which is an improvement. Yeah, c5 I somehow did not consider. Might have been a decent option, actually. Yeah.
No, I think that's the best move in this position.
Somehow, and actually after the match finished, I kind of realized that I'm probably supposed to play knight f3, f5, e4 immediately instead of d3. Yeah.
No, d3 is the main move. Or well, c4, d4, g3, but d3.
No, of course not. Obviously, I can transpose to the Dutch, but I mean, if I want not to play the Dutch, because I somehow I wasn't that happy after d3, d6, e4, e5. I wasn't that sure what I'm supposed to do now.
No, you did. Fine.
Which is kind of bizarre, but.
No, this matters. But after e4, f, e knight, g5, there's some other lines, not d5 or something. I thought black was supposed to be okay there.
I think they go like d5, d3, queen d6 or something.
Some move, queen d6 probably.
Yeah, queen d6 with the idea d6. But we shouldn't be concentrating so very hard on this opening problem, I guess.
Yeah, anyway, and you made it past Boo, and you're facing Maxiboy, and you're putting pressure on the first game.
Yeah, no, but I mean the classical part, I have regrets because obviously he misremembered something about his prep in the first game and was kind of struggling to stay afloat, and then I let him off without going too much into detail. I had numerous options there which would have given him a much harder task. And in the second game, we both were, I think, sort of misplaying quite badly, like the whole sequence immediately after the opening where. I played rook e7 and he played knight f5, allowing bishop f2, and then I didn't play bishop f2, and this whole sequence wasn't the best example of two people, playing their best chess. But in the end, I'm left with the final regret there because his regrets are sort of early in the game, and my regret is that having turned down a draw for after f5. I got very confused after queen c1 and kind of semi-panicked and offered a draw back.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
No, he played f5 and offered me a draw, and I felt that this is very reminiscent to my match against Stanish in Baku, where I also felt that the black game might actually give me a better winning shot if he overpresses somewhere, and also I couldn't really see why I'm doing so badly with an extra pawn. So the decision to say no didn't really come very difficult. Wasn't the hardest no to a draw in my life, and I have struggled in the past with this. But here I felt, very, very confident in my decision to continue. But then he blitzed out bishop b2 and in particular queen c1, and I realized that my intended c7, c5 doesn't actually work because e5. C takes d4, he can't take on f6. And then queen c8, fg7, all these things. And if I can't play c5, I started feeling that it's not that easy to stop e4, e5 in the long run. And if he does get e5, my kingside situation might become very precarious.
So if you do whatever, like c6, he goes rook e2, queen f4, e5, and it's...
No, rook e8. Rook e8 I think is a good move, but after rook e8 he goes rook e2, and yeah, here the machine just says play c6, queen f4, queen c7. And e5 is never going to be particularly good because we have enough pressure against that pawn. And c6 did occur to me, but it just seemed to me like it's so slow and does such a poor job of fighting against e5 that I kind of discounted it immediately. And I was looking at some sharp tactical ideas. Like my main idea after playing rook e8, I thought I'll offer a draw, and if he doesn't take the draw after rook e2, I will play queen b5, queen takes c7, h5. Yeah, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out who is better and why in that position. He just goes h4, knight g4, check king h3. It looks ugly, but I can't really get to that king. And I've given up my extra pawn, and if my attack on the king side doesn't materialize, I could very easily be worse there. And I thought, yeah, this is kind of not exactly going completely off the rails, but it is headed in a direction I don't particularly like. And I thought, let's clarify. And clarify we did, but objectively, I absolutely have to continue that.
Yeah. That's also hard to be, for me as a commentator, to be a hypocrite about it, because I was praising you earlier for being pragmatic, that you weren't taking crazy chances in the rapid, in the classical, and unafraid to go on the rapid. And this time you go into the rapid and it fails, and then, of course, it's easy to say you should have played in the classical. But it's so hard to know before, right? Like, what's the right approach?
No, but it's not even... I mean, first of all, in this match, frankly, it's not... I didn't feel like I was drawing dead in the rapid, but Maxim does start as a favorite against most people in the world in the rapid, I think.
Right.
So
you should go for more variance in the classical.
Yeah, there was an additional reason not to cop out in the classical, and that was actually part of my reasoning when I said no after 5. I felt we both recognized that he is probably favored in the tie breaks, so it makes no sense for me to make a draw, and this is why reoffering it back 3 moves later kind of stings, because it was in part it was definitely a failure of nerve. Had I seen that c6 queen c7 is strong, I obviously would have played it. So it's not just nerves. It was also that I wasn't really sure what my next move is after e8. Had I seen what I'm supposed to play there, I would not have offered a draw, obviously. But on top of that, that was clearly me making an impulsive decision.
Gotcha.
Which I knew to be sort of minus EV in the long run.
Then in the rapid, I don't want to go into detail. The opening with white just went wrong, right? Repeating the same line.
I spoke to Maxim on Skype, and we felt he will not just flat out repeat what he did in game 1 of the classical. And
by Maxim you don't mean MVL, but
no, I mean
boy Matlakov, right?
Yeah, and
just to clarify.
Sure, and I didn't get a bad position, but I got a position which is extremely hard to control, and a position in which one mistake is very very high, and I think cannot be praised highly enough, because what I'm doing on the king side, it looks very weird, but if you give me one tempo to play king g1, intending to play rook f1 next move, completely stabilizing my king side structure, what I'm doing on the king side starts making a ton of sense, because I just need this structure not to cut for move. Right. And king c7, I think, is the only way to put pressure on it. And it's such an uneasy move to make on the board, it feels, because like white plays rook c1, and there's all these discovered checks that I will be making on the next move. But they just give me nothing. I still wasn't really supposed to collapse as horribly as I did, and the position is nowhere near lost after king c7. And my following play is, far from exemplary, but it's it's a measure of like King C7 throws you. Because I had a very clear game plan once again for this game, and I've just some people whose opinion I respect who told me that my whole approach to the tie breaks was but I feel my approach was justified. But
You're breaking up.
This is where I agree. No, it says so on my end, but I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, I mean,
so can you hear me at all?
Wing it. 1, 2.
Yeah, it seems to have gone away. So hopefully it's okay now. All right. You there?
Yeah, now I hear you again.
Yeah. So yes, to wrap up, the second game in particular, the second rapid game was I mean, King C7 is one of the best moves under pressure I've seen in a while. I'm still very, very impressed by it. And that was basically the end of my tournament.
Yeah. Shout out.
Which is very, I think, shout out to our boy MVL, yeah. Which is actually very prompt because it seems like I need to start packing up and going places.
Fair enough. The first game of the World Cup is over anyway. Before we let you go, what do you think about the Caruana-Kramnik pairing in round 1 of an Open? Have we ever seen
I was about
like that?
No, I haven't, and I don't think it's a great idea, in particular right now, because, and I understand this is, like, the organizers of Isle of Man aren't supposed to really care about that, but since these guys are in a sort of a straight race for candidate spots by rating, if this game is not a draw, whoever loses it not only loses like double the points because it's +5 for one of them and -5 for the other one, he also is going to be playing significantly weaker opposition.
Right.
In the Swiss for the next like 5 rounds. 5 is maybe an overstatement, but definitely for the next 3 rounds, he will be playing people in the lower brackets. So the implications of this game are going to be huge, in particular if it doesn't end in the draw. And I'm not a huge supporter of that. I'm all for somewhat randomized pairings, but I think like the top 5 should not be, their names should not be in the bag. Okay. By all means, have them drawn from the bag, but remove like the people whose pairings you're randomizing. They should not be able to pick one another. I think that just skews everything so much. And even if it was, let's say, a Kramnik Carlsen pairing, or I don't know, a Carlsen Anand pairing, where none of them have to care about the rat race for the candidates, it just gives everybody else a head start in the tournament. Because this game could not have happened at all. And Magnus today is playing a 2100 player. And these guys are playing each other, so their tournament situation is immediately significantly worse than his. So yeah, not a fan.
Gotcha. Who's better and why?
In that game, I thought Fabi was better, but I'm not sure by how much.
Fair enough. Computer says 125, which is significant. So yeah, Kramnik under pressure.
Yeah, and that would be like, it's obviously slightly ridiculous to call it after round 1, but if he does end up losing, that's maybe his candidate's kind of gone. And that's extremely harsh.
Right.
Shouldn't really happen, I feel. But it has happened, and what can you do? But really not great in my viewpoint.
Fair enough. All right, Peter Svidler, you're headed to your dacha. Where you headed?
Yeah, we're off to Dacia, and I will hopefully be able to do something in some capacity tomorrow.
That'd be fantastic.
It actually has a stabler internet connection than my flat currently, so we have that to look forward to.
Excellent. Then have a great trip and hopefully see you tomorrow.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you so much for joining.
Sure. Cheers.